Good morning from Patagonia. I'm here in Torres del Paine in Patagonia, in the Chilean side of Patagonia. Now, I spent quite a bit of my time as a photographer photographing mountains. I've been to the Dolomites many times, but these mountains in Patagonia are mountains that I've always wanted to shoot pretty much for as long as I've been a photographer. I remember the first time I saw images of these peaks, the Torres del Paine, years ago, and I've always wanted to visit here. For one reason or another, I've never been able to manage it. Things like COVID kind of stopped trips from happening before, so I'm super happy to be down here for the first time. And something about places that you've seen so many images of, that you've seen so many photos of, when you finally get there, there's always a chance that they're going to be a little bit disappointing or underwhelming because you've seen so many incredible images of them before. But these mountains really are stunning. And I think one of the things that's really fascinating about them is it's not that they're that big. These are just about 3,000 meters tall, which is about the same as the Dolomites. It's just that they rise so high from the plain where we are now, which is relatively low. You've got this real vertical wall of them rising up from relative lowland where we are. So you get this feeling of incredible verticality, which is really photogenic. Now, since we've got here, we've had really clear weather. There's no winds today. There's no clouds at all in the sky. So we've spent like the first day and a half checking out locations, hiking to them, seeing what they look like, seeing what the compositions are. So when we get the hopefully more interesting weather, it's supposed to get a little bit cloudier this afternoon, we'll be better prepared to be able to make decisions on which are the best places to shoot. You really don't want to be turning up for places at sunrise in the dark and trying to find compositions. So it's really helped over the last couple of days to be walking around, hiking around the park, checking out different locations, seeing what works, what the foreground elements are, seeing what kind of considerations you have to take into account when you're photographing the mountains, like how much they're hidden by these kind of ridges in the foreground. So we came here this morning for sunrise, really nice, perfect reflections, nothing really happening in the sky, but even so, the mountains are so wonderful. There's such a beautiful shape that getting here before sunrise with the alpenglow and with the reflections, we made some images that I'm quite happy with. What an absolutely amazing morning photographing these mountains here. So this is our third day here in Torres del Paine in the park. And apart from one really nice sunset we had on the first day here, our sunrises have been really clean. Just nothing happening in the sky, empty blue skies. And it's beautiful. These mountains are stunningly beautiful. Even without clouds, they're incredibly photogenic. But the thing is, from an image making point of view, whenever you're photographing mountains, you really want to give them some form of drama, something that really gives that sense of three-dimensionality. And clouds do that. If you've just got an empty blue sky, it can feel a little bit flat, a little bit postcardy. I'm sure there are techniques that you can use to mitigate that, but what you really want is clouds. So we got a good sunset last night, and this morning the forecast was for good clouds and very little wind. So we came back out to this alpine lake that we've been to a number of times already. It's a short hike up from the trailhead to see the coronas here. You've got the Torres del Paine and then Paine Grande there. And yeah, we were just fortunate to get one of those really magical sunrises when it just feels like a gift. It feels like a gift to be out there. It feels like a gift to be in that place, seeing just magic happen around the peaks. So from a photographic point of view, we're mostly working with the reflections there. And we didn't have perfect reflections. We didn't have perfectly, there was a tiny bit of a breeze. The idea, you can do long exposures, and that's going to blur the ripples out of the water, but it's not going to put the reflection back in place. You can never create a reflection where there isn't one. But what we found was that like the first 15 feet, maybe 3 or 4 meters of the lake were relatively calm. So what you can do in those situations is you get the camera really low, and the lower you are, the more the calm bit of water fills the front of your frame. And that means you get a much better reflection. So kind of like the back of the lake where it's a little bit blurry, that's disturbed, but we were getting quite decent reflections. And then it's relatively straightforward. There's nothing particularly complex. It's just checking composition, making sure that there's a really nice balance of composition, that it's not too heavily weighted, you've got the right amount of sky, and then just adjusting the exposure as it gets brighter. We also found a few compositions where we could step back and use the bank of the lake as a nice kind of inverted C curve that just came in from the corner and led your eye around to the mountains. But again, those images were very dependent on there being some reflections. And that's basically what we spent the morning doing, just kind of stepping back and doing the shot with the C curve, and then stepping forward and just having reflections, trying to make sure that we come away with slightly different compositions, because the sunrise here is relatively slow. You get a lot of time with color in the sky. You get about 30-35 minutes when there's plenty of color in the sky. So just again, it's making sure you check everything, check that you're in focus, check that you're not losing any detail in the highlights, and that you've got the entire dynamic range captured. So that sometimes means bracketing. And then, yeah, just trying different compositions and just picking out a particular part of the scene. And then as the morning moved on, the lake got actually calmer and calmer. So although the color from the sky kind of bleached out and we got some warmth and we got some light on the peaks, the reflections were so good and the scene was so good that it was still working. So I think we were shooting there for maybe 2.5 hours. And yeah, really, really special morning. I'm looking forward to seeing the images. So the thing that I've discovered since we've been staying in this park is that pretty much wherever you go, you're always going to be shooting the same mountains, the Paine Grande, which is this one here, and the Torres del Paine, which are there. So really you're just looking for different foregrounds to complement the mountains. And we've been incredibly lucky with the weather that we've had kind of a full range of different conditions to shoot in. So we've had moments when there's been really no wind and we've been able to shoot reflections. We've had some really high winds that just whip up sort of waves on the lake, which allow you to shoot in a different way. There we were trying to blur the waves a little bit, so we were using shutter speeds of about 1/5, 1/6, which just really works. And the reason that you do that is that if you shoot really long exposures, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, is that you're going to kill all of that action, all of the drama in the water. But if you shoot really fast, there's so much detail in the water that it becomes distracting. So what you want is that kind of magic Goldilocks shutter speed, which blurs the water just enough to take the detail out of it and allow you to use leading lines and make the water interesting, but not so much that it dominates the scene and overpowers the actual focus point, which is the mountain. So we've also been really lucky with weather. We've had some incredible sunrises, some incredible sunsets. You can see now this is just the end of another wonderful sunrise here. This is very much a sunrise place when the sunrise is over to the east, and it does light up the front of the mountains, which is wonderful. As it sets, it's slightly behind the mountains over to the west, which puts the mountains in shadow. So it means when you're shooting into the light, which gives you all kinds of challenges with dynamic range, because you've often got the sun in the frame, so you've got a really bright spot. And then the mountains kind of lose contrast. But in the morning, it's absolutely magical. Just before, about 45 minutes before the sun comes up, there starts to be a really wonderful glow in the peaks. We get this wonderful alpine glow. And you can't necessarily see it with your naked eye, but when you start to do long exposures, the colors just kind of saturate the sky. And it's a long time since I've been in mountains and had such incredible conditions to be able to shoot like this. I don't know if it's Patagonia, I don't know if it's something about the latitude of this place, but we've been incredibly lucky with the light and conditions. So the other thing about this place is because you're always photographing fundamentally the same mountains, you're trying to find variety in the images that's not just the variety of the weather conditions. So that's been, if you're shooting wide, just a different range of foregrounds. So as I said, we've had the reflections, we've had the waves, and it's just trying to find different foregrounds that work. So with the waves, it's really nice if you've got lots of rock in the foreground. We've hiked up to a few higher points where you get a little bit of elevation and you can look down on the park. You get the shapes of the landscape there, the rivers flowing through. A few mornings ago, we had lots of mist. So we actually shot from outside the park, looking into the park. We had this wonderful layer of mist over the river that flows into the park. We've also been hiking up to this mountain here, that one there, Mirador de Condor, which is where we were this morning, which again just gives you a very different perspective. It gives you elevation, so you see the mountains in a different way. You're looking out across the mountains rather than looking up at the mountains, so they're not leaning back away from you. And everything gives you a different challenge with foregrounds and things like this. So it's been fun. It's been interesting to shoot really the same subject in a variety of different ways. Been using telephoto lenses just to punch into the mountains. And yeah, you always feel, I think, on any trip that you could have done more. There's always like a part of you that wishes you'd got more shots. But that's just something that I know that 2 months down the line, when I'm looking at the images, that's when the satisfaction comes through, hopefully, that there's a really nice portfolio and a really nice collection of images from this park. So that's it for Torres del Paine. We're going to be leaving the park today and heading into Argentina, into Alchalten, where we're going to spend 5 days photographing in the Fitzroy area there. But first, before that, got to go and have breakfast, got to go and have a coffee, and then it's about a 6 or 7 hour drive. So that's it for this video. I hope it's been interesting. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my photography, if you enjoy the way I shoot, I would really love to have you join me on a workshop. We've got lots of trips coming up next year to all kinds of places. I'm going to be back in Patagonia, Greenland, Iceland. We've got a couple of different tours in Namibia. We're doing something in the Amazon, in Utah. We've got new workshops coming in the Azores and in Madeira. You can get full information on all my tours on the website, so check that out. And if you've got any questions, just drop me an email and I'll get back to you. And as ever, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for the support of the channel and good luck with all your photography. I'll see you next time. Take care.